What up, mother flipper homie G? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me I have some more RPG horror stories, a bit of a happy update, kind of some good news for once. I am losing an incredible amount of weight. Like, I'm not like losing at 100 pounds a day or something. That'd be insane. But I noticed myself getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. And I'm not exactly I'm not built like Morrow, like a twig, right? And I've been noticing it because every single time I go out for like a jog, my pants keep just getting looser and looser every single time. And it's both great but also annoying because I want to be able to jog without having my pants fall down or something. But it's also great because hey, maybe I'm improving and I won't have to be on medication ever again. But enough about me, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. My DM admitted to liking me less than the others. It's not a big problem at all, lol, but it certainly got into my head. I've been with the regular group for a couple of years now, and we have many campaigns under my belt. There are 4 founding members who have been in every campaign, me, a DM, and 2 other players. 1 or 2 spots tend to be rotated out for more casual acquaintances when they show interest. But then, I'm not sure when it started, but a while ago I noticed DM occasionally making comments directed at the other 2 founding players and leaving me out. Stuff like, hell yeah, you 2 always have the best ideas, or you 2 are always up for the crazy stuff I throw at you. There's more to this story, but the first thing is, don't assume something immediately. Like, I understand, like imposter syndrome or like anxiety and stuff. I have moments sometimes where I'm like sitting, working in the video or doing something or just doing, I don't know, setting up something for a session, and I check Discord and like, nobody messaged me. Micah hasn't messaged me. Mary hasn't messaged me. Do they hate me? Maybe they dislike me. Maybe they don't want to do anything with me. And then I have to realize that it's a little gremlin in the back of my head that needs to shut the hell up. It's difficult to live out there, and sometimes self-doubt and self-criticism can really tear you down. But in this situation alone, I wouldn't be jumping the gun in this situation. Like, just because it said hell yeah, you always have the best ideas, so doesn't mean you don't have any good ideas. Just in the current moment they just made a one-off comment. Could be, but that's me jumping to conclusion, and I don't want to do the same thing that I'm accusing the OP to do. So let's continue with the story. It wasn't often, but it did start to bug me, because as far as I was aware, I've been here the same amount of time as them, made it to every campaign. I went along with whatever ideas the DM said, the same as them, etc. At first I thought I was being overly sensitive, but after one such comment, I reached out to him privately and brought it up, and asked him if I'd done anything wrong. He said no, and I haven't done anything wrong. He just liked playing with the other 2 more, and they're easy to work with. He says I always look rather blank-faced, and says I'm hard to engage. I apologize and said I'm always engaged, I just have trouble with facial expressions because of some mild nerve damage in my face from a childhood case of impetigo? I mispronounced it completely. He accepted that excuse, but also pointed out that I like to roleplay a lot, but he prefers to focus on the combat side of TTRPGs and prefers to have at least 1 battle per session, but I was holding people up. I apologize for that and promised to roleplay less so we could fight more. Okay, well, just because they have better chemistry with other players and stuff and not as much with you doesn't mean you don't have any chemistry at all. Also, the whole thing about roleplaying and stuff, different play styles are going to be different, and it's understandable, but that doesn't mean you have to completely stop roleplaying just to appease somebody else. If you like to roleplay. Yeah, there can be moments where you can maybe have it turned down and not have it be egregious if it becomes a massive problem. But if it was a massive problem, I'm pretty sure the other players would have said something. Just because your DM wants more of the rest of the TTRPGs and combat heavy specific stuff doesn't mean you should completely go for that and ignore roleplay. If you want to roleplay, you can have roleplay. You can have a good balance of everything, but some players simply just have different preferences. Some want to have a roleplay heavy session with just nothing but roleplay. Some want to have combat session that is nothing but combat. Everybody has their own play styles and differences, but if you're playing with a group, it's all about trying to find a nice medium for everybody to mesh together with other play styles combined together in a satisfactory way where everybody can have fun and enjoyment, both roleplay, combat, puzzles, whatever it is you'd like to do. Maybe just talking to goofy characters and making up goofy voices. Maybe that's your big shtick. That's what makes D&D the most fun for you. I don't think you're doing anything wrong whatsoever. You don't have to bend over backwards just to appease somebody else. It's fine not to have 100% chemistry with everybody. I gotta be honest, the people that I have the most chemistry with, Micah and Mary, I would definitely 100% have the most amount of chemistry because they're literally the closest people to me. The people that have been with me through through thick and thin. We've been through our own RPG horror story together. We started a server together to get all our friends acclimated to D&D and actually have fun playing D&D with them. But just because I have more chemistry with Micah and Mary doesn't mean I see my other friends any different. Yeah, sure, I could talk shop, if we could talk homebrew, we could talk D&D and DMing stuff with Micah and Mary. But obviously, I'm not going to be able to talk with my players because they're players. They don't want to DM, they want to play. Of course, I'm not going to talk to them about this kind of stuff. If they had interest, sure, I could probably talk to them a little bit. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't have to feel bad just because your DM has slightly different chemistry that maybe meshes a slightly bit better with other players compared to you. It's fine to be different. It's fine not to be at 100% mesh capacity. Individualism is a thing, and you like what you like and your DM likes what they like, and it's fine. You guys get along fine. I think you're still, to this point, reading a little bit too hard into it and so ready to bend over backwards. And unfortunately, there's more of this going on here. Another issue that came up was our use of systems. He hated D&D 5e and would change systems every few sessions trying to find something that he liked. This was really hard on me because I was having trouble trying to memorize new systems every week. So I ended up doing my own research and buying the core books for a new system which everyone loved. But regardless, he suddenly abandoned it again. Only then he told us that he just likes trying new systems every campaign, and he hadn't actually been looking for a permanent replacement. Starting our first campaign since he had this conversation next week. But honestly, even though we cleared the air, I still feel twisted up about it. He promised that none of this means they disliked me, just that he preferred the other two, and I'm aware that I can't realistically be adored by everyone, but I don't know. I do agree that maybe I'm not a suitable player for him, and I did decide to take a campaign or two off in hopes that he would find someone better suited for him. But I jumped back in when he struggled to reach quorum. The other members were excited for a new campaign, and I didn't want them to miss out. I'm thinking I'll at least stick it out until I can find another regular to fill my spot, but I feel a lot of pressure for this campaign to be excessive and not to hold everyone back with my roleplay, and I'm worried that my constant need to reread the rules will slow us down too. Also, he's given the players the task of coming up with a historical event and a mystery for his homebrew world, and I can't even think of anything because all these ideas I had are already present in the world outline he gave us. I'm a mess. It's fine to be a mess. You know who was also a mess? Your DM. Having to switch systems with every single new campaign, it would be exhausting. It would be so tiring. No, you're not a problem here. I think your DM is the problem. Instead of you liking things a little more steady and chill, your DM is the chaos of chaos. We gotta have combat, we can't have roleplay. We gotta try every single new system every single time until I find the happy system that I can be glad with. Oops, I don't have a favorite system. I just like trying every new system every single time. At some point, you guys are gonna get exhausted from trying out different systems, and then maybe the DM is gonna get bored. Maybe he's gonna stop playing TTRPGs in general. But seriously, still, this is not a good way to approach the situation. This is not a good way to approach the situation at all, because you're bending over backwards to somebody who won't even bend over backwards for y'all. Like, trying a new system every single new campaign is nuts. It's crazy. And asking you to come up with a historical moment or some sort of a mystery or something for the campaign world. Oh my god. Just how the DM gave you the grievances and talked things out to you, I think there's some things the DM should 100% try to make accommodations for. For example, not rushing to a brand new system every single time, sticking to a few systems that all of you already know and focusing on those instead of bouncing back between different systems. If you can make compromises for the DM can 100% make compromises for you, and then y'all can have an understanding together. Find a nice balance between combat and roleplay that isn't too egregious on either part, and then stick with a system that's switching to a different system every single new campaign. That'd be insanity. That is a lot. That is excessive. You need to have a heart-to-heart with your DM and talk to him about, hey, maybe we don't just bounce over to a brand new system. How about we play one system continuously until we're happy with, and then we can all move on collectively to the next system. I got a question for you. What do the other players think? Like, clearly it was just you and the DM talking about it, but what are the other players that the DM and you mentioned? What about them? What do they think? I think you all need to get together and figure out what you all want together as a group. Not just you and the DM, but everybody should be involved in the conversation. While you do that, I'm gonna move on to the next story for today and get some water because my throat is killing me. Problem player taking Sultry Bard too far. I'm a player at a table of 5 players. 4 of the players, including myself as well as the DM, are male, and the problem player, who I'll call Jay, is the sole female. We've been playing at this table for just over a year, with most of us having met through knowing the DM first. Our campaign has always been more lighthearted in tone. We aren't afraid of immature moments, innuendos, or smutty humor at the table. There's always an unfortunate tendency with the DM and some of the other players to flirt with Jane. I'm gonna go with Jane's character at the table and a little out of game too. I personally find this a bit cringe, but she seems to enjoy this, so it's not really my business and I won't white knight needlessly. However, around 3 months ago, Jane's first character was killed in combat and resisted resurrection. I have a suspicion this might have been planned with the DM, as I know she was becoming bored with her PC. No harm, no foul. The problem emerges when we are introduced to Jane's new character, a bard who's also a prostitute and whose charisma roles revolve around flirtation. Not inherently a terrible idea, nor is this a character which doesn't fit the campaign. However, it quickly becomes clear that Jane is getting a little too into this character. If the bard is flashing some cleavage in-game, Jane will also do this herself at the table. If she is physically affectionate in-game, this happens out of game too. So you have a player that basically created the character that flaunts their goods while they also flaunt their goods at the table. Interesting. Very interesting. We've read some stories where people get really into roleplay, really into the immersive character, into theater and stuff. You know, it's not a theater of mind, it's theater at the table. Like about someone's mom who was basically being like a very flirtatious character, and she was like looking into someone's eyes deeply, sometimes hand on their cheek, being romantic and stuff, only for it to get a little bit weird. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's, you know, as long as it's done in good fun and chill. But in this situation, I feel like maybe it's pushing the boundary a little bit. Like I said, it could just be player literally having fun at the table and just experimenting and dicking around, you know? This is mildly immersion breaking at first, as the blatant performance for the people around the table and subsequent thirst felt like it was distracting from the game itself. But things soon went from bad to worse when Jane began to openly lift her top and show her bra on near every persuasion check for near guaranteed advantage. I'll voice my concerns here. I was essentially told not to ruin a good thing. Okay, I'm calling lies, 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 and porky pies. I can't imagine a player at the table is just like, hey DM, whoa, look at these puppies. Can I get advantage on my charisma check? It's the same thing as me just standing up at the table and just flashing my tiefling dong and everybody be like, hey DM, hey. Let's imagine Mary is the DM. Hey Mary, look at this, huh? Charisma advantage, huh? That's just flops in the wind. I call BS. I think that's nuts. I think that's cap. This has to be fake. It has to be fake. It has felt like every social encounter in game for the last 2 months had been steered towards getting Jane to expose herself out of game, leading up to our most recent session in which her character was railroaded into sleeping with an NPC for information, and involved Jane exposing her bare chest at the table, derailing the session entirely. I'm apparently the only one who found this to be out of line. It is out of line. Also, what do they mean by sleeping with an NPC? Does Jane commit to the full thing and just like lays down the table? It's like, all right, DM, bang me. I am ready for full immersion. What? What the hell is going on? This is turning less into a D&D and more like a D&D strip. Dungeons and DNS, Dungeons and Strippers. Dungeons and Strippers, there we go. It's just literally turning into just a horn dogathon. And Jane's probably playing into it. Like I said, okay, never mind. I was about to say I can't imagine a woman being so perverted, but that's wrong. I have a lot of female friends that are so perverted, like extremely perverted, like insane amount of perversion. You know Mary? Do you know that Mary, outside of being a gentle satyr, is a massive pervert? Yeah, I ousted Mary now. At this point, I think my time in this campaign is at an end, and I will likely bow out at the end of the current story arc. I'm certainly not a prude, nor am I judging Jane for clearly being a sexually open lady, but I feel like the core of the campaign has gone downhill in favor of the DM and other players chasing Jane. I'm sure for some, having a topless female player at the table is a dream scenario, but I just want to play my nerdy game in peace. Please validate my opinions and tell me if I'm the sane one here. And guess what? Before I tell my comments, there's an update to this story, so let's move on to it right now. Update: player takes Sultry Bard way over the line. My last session at the table. This is an update on a post a few days ago. Link in my profile for context. Can't seem to work out hyperlinking on mobile, apologies. But essentially a player at the table had been over-sexualizing her character to the point of exposing herself topless at the table. And the DM had encouraged and incentivized this with no regard to consent. It has totally ruined the game and made me uncomfortable. But I'm the only person at the table who thinks this. To everyone who warned me to quit the campaign then and there rather than see out the story arc with one last session, you were absolutely right to make this recommendation. Sadly, my reluctance to let go of this campaign I've invested a year of my life into and my fear of missing out with the quest arc got the better of me, and I attended last night with the intention of bowing out gracefully. Had a character moment prepared that would be unobtrusive and avoid potentially stoking an argument. This, as many warned me, did not go to plan. If the entire game is literally run because everybody just wants to see Jane topless, what's the point of coming back to it? What story arc are you gonna expect? The only story arc is gonna happen is 2 story arcs. The arc here and the arc here, as in Jane's chest. That's the only arc that's happening. That's the only thing going to be happening. What, is she going to be taking off her pants too? Is that the arc? Wow, such character development. And just to clarify something, I'm not a prude. In fact, as a horny devil, I am indeed IRL a horn dog myself. And well, I wouldn't say a massive pervert, but if I could live in Succulendia, a land full of succubi women, I would love it so much. But there's time and place for everything. Succulendia can wait. It's D&D time, girl. I don't even know who I'm talking at this point, but whatever, let's continue with this. Straight off the bat, it was extremely obvious that conversations had been had between sessions that I was not privy to, and Jane is extremely flirty with everyone at the table from the off, referring to having something up her sleeve. They in turn could not seem to wipe the smirks off their increasingly punchable faces. Another point of note, aside from one person at the table who is a generally friendly person, they're also extremely cold with me from the moment I arrived, the DM in particular. I was under the impression that with the session starting off with a combat almost immediately, I'd at least be able to play some real D&D or would be safe from whatever game the others think they are playing. But no, Jane during the battle description prompted by the DM describes her character doing a flip, and she tells us that the party notices in a moment she's not wearing underwear. This in turn leads to a very uncomfortable moment in which the DM asks her to describe her character's genitals, and Jane gladly gives a very vivid description. There's no way that this was not a pre-prepared bit, because Jane cannot improv descriptions like these. This has to be a lie. This has to be a lie. Why do they promptly have to pre-write the description of her hoo-ha to explain at the table how her character's hoo-ha looked like? Why? Why would somebody spend time doing it? You know what it sounds like? It sounds like it's performance art for you specifically. That's why I think the story is fake. There's no way to put so much work and effort just for this. I just don't understand. This has to be fake. This has to be fake. This has to be a fake story. There's no way. I try to carry on and block out the cringe, but knowing that I'll be retiring from the table at the end of the session, it was hard to really give a crap. Post-combat, the party takes a long rest, and immediately my fellow party members start using their characters to quiz Jane's bard on her lack of underwear and tell her how much they enjoy it. I make a very clear point that my character goes to bed as he finds this fawning difficult to watch, and so do I. But they only seem to find my point amusing. They start exchanging glances and making an in-joke that clearly don't understand, like children, before turning into the attention back to Jane. Jane is giving them all the "do you like what you saw" speech, and I'm openly rolling my eyes at this point as they bombard Jane Bard with compliments that clearly apply to Jane herself. Jane in turn lifts her dress, and as I guessed was the case from the multiple of unsubtle hints, is not wearing anything under this dress. She proceeds to take it off completely, and while the rest of the table goes rabid for this display of full nudity, I instantly shut my laptop and start packing my bag, announcing I'm done and won't be returning to the table. My paladin had died in his sleep because he has lost the will to live. A little spiteful of me perhaps, but I had a point to make, and I'm hoping I can bring a spiritual successor to another table, as I love this sanctimonious bastard. Of course she goes naked. Of course she removes her skirt and goes full stock naked. Will you apply to a right campaign? Like, something must have happened. Something along the way happened. The campaign is happening. Jane is playing there. Everybody's playing. And then suddenly it turns to a horn dog fest. I'm still gonna say it. I think the story is fake. I don't find your story believable, OP. I genuinely don't. The DM, who was the person at this table I knew pre-game, an old colleague, instantly burns his bridge with me and says, "Okay, screw up then." I knew that if he was asked to choose between me and Jane, he would choose the naked woman. But the venom with which he did this tells me that it wasn't a difficult choice at all, and I probably dodged a bullet. DM then tells me to go write another Reddit post about it. I did suspect there was a possibility they might find my last post, and I suspect they'll be looking for this one too now. If any of them are reading, have this on me. Maybe reflect on the comments left by countless people in the previous post if you want to listen to me. Oh Okay, I gotta be honest, I feel like that's another cap coming up. Most people that play don't even know that each other like write RPG horror stories and stuff, and this feels like you just kind of almost sounds like a self-promote. Wow, they feel you so important for having to write an RPG horror story about this scenario. Convenient that they know about your RPG horror. Most people don't think about that. Most people just think, oh cool, another person at the table and stuff. That's really neat, that's really interesting. They don't even think about somebody having like a Reddit account to go to RPG horror stories to write an RPG. Most people keep this stuff anonymous anyway, because at the end of the day, they don't want to start burning bridges and stuff. They just want to talk about a horrible experience, mask out the names, and leave some details open out there to share for the world, at least as a way to at least scream into the void, to feel a little bit better about themselves and not feel like they're going nuts and crazy over the scenario, or maybe share an interesting story going on. I don't think the story is legit. I genuinely don't think the story is legit. I'm failing to believe it, but I'll continue reading. Dude, I don't know what it is, honestly. I have no idea. Like, usually I believe stories, but this just feels too conveniently put together, and it has to mention the fact that, oh yeah, write another Reddit article, whatever. Just, I'm over this. Let's finish it. This also explains why there were arseholes from the off week, though I don't know why they chose not to confront me beforehand if they had an issue with my Reddit post. Either they wanted a premeditated argument, or for whatever reason they or Jane wanted me there for her not so surprise reveal. Why spend so much time putting this reveal for you specifically? What makes you so special for this reveal? What's the point? If they wanted to go on without you, they would have kicked you out because like, oh, he's been a bit of a sourpuss. We want to deal with horny Jane instead. We don't want to deal with sourpuss over here. Let's kick sourpuss out and just play with horny Jane. Why would they have this show specifically for you? Do you think this was set up like, ooh, let's get him. Let's have Jane flash herself, flash her hoo-ha and tatas again, just to see how the player would react? Do you think they would really go out of the way to do something like that for you of all people? Why? What was the point? It sounds so comical. It sounds like a comic supervillain or some crap from like a Lego story game or some crap like that. That's what it sounds like. It sounds embarrassingly comical. Why spend the effort going for it? If they want to play the horny games, just be like, all right, well, I just play horny games without the guy, and that's it. If they saw your Reddit post, apparently, if they know about your Reddit post already, to me, it seems extremely unbelievable. Why put it in the show just with somebody like you? What's the point? Why even do it in the first place? I fail to believe this whole thing was orchestrated just to try to screw with you in some way because they know about your Reddit post. If you had a problem with them, also regarding having problems with you posting the Reddit post and stuff and burning the bridges, if you had problems with Jane being at the table, showing herself, flashing herself at the table, probably should have spoke to the DM about it some forever ago when this first started happening and say, hey, I don't feel comfortable. Is this thing gonna repeat? Can we ask Jane not to do that? If it's gonna repeat, I'm out of there. Just move on from there. But no, you decide to come back to this story for conveniently to have it be the grand reveal of the hoo-ha just for you there. This means they were fully aware of my discomfort this week and proceeded regardless. Jane knew full well she was making me uncomfortable and made the decision to expose herself even more than before. She had completely lost the benefit of the doubt I gave her. Jane, if you're reading this, you're extremely lucky this hasn't blown up in your face. Jane already has attention of everybody else at the table. Why would she care not having your attention in general? You really think that Jane planned all this and got all the dudes there that have fawned over her to do this just to get you in some way? Why? She already has attention of everybody else at the table. I mean, at this point, just cancel D&D, have a circle jerk session, a big orgy together. What's the point of playing D&D in this situation, huh? Like, what's the real point in this situation? It just doesn't make sense to me. I walked out of the session there and didn't look back. Judging by the very explicit photos of Jane which had appeared on our D&D Discord by the time I'd driven home, I made the right decision. It seems the game was abandoned altogether last night. Oh, so the conveniently also left some pictures for you to say that you've seen and didn't just immediately kick you out of the Discord since they're being so conniving and mean to you, but conveniently left you in a Discord to see all the aftermath pictures. How convenient is that? Left the Discord without another word, and as it stands, I have zero intention of conversing with any of them again, except maybe the one who didn't give me the cold shoulder. I'm absolutely fuming that this campaign had gone down the pan. Our DM was extremely competent, one of the best I had. This had been entirely thrown away as the promise of a pretty girl dropping her, I'm not going to say that word, at the table, pants. I'm going to say pantalones at the table. So if anyone in Southeast UK has an open table with the only unexpected mounds I have to contend with are the shambling kind, and in which the only dilapidated caverns I'll be subjected to is a dragon's lair, I have a recently deceased paladin hoping to wake up in a better world. Edit. Someone claiming to be Jane is not commenting on this post. They have her name correct and most likely is her. I have now blocked them all and will not be engaging. Needless to say, she's twisting facts and I'd say downvote and move on. This lot cannot be reasoned with. Before I say my final words about this, there is something in the comments section that I'm just gonna read out loud. Posted from OP. Further minor update. I can confirm this post had been seen by Jane and her harem. Thanks to your overwhelming FU sentiment towards them, they're extremely unhappy with me. I have received a tirade of messages from them that have made a most entertaining read, except for another unwelcome nude picture which was intended to invoke jealousy and gives me nothing but relief in my escape. Thank you all for getting under their skin and allowing me the smallest gift of smugness and vindication for what has otherwise been a fairly crappy week D&D wise. Big up. I have never met anybody in my entire life that gets so butthurt at somebody for writing anything at all or sharing a story that as a revenge or as a, knockback, they send me a nude. I've never experienced that ever. Nobody has ever done that. Nobody that I know, IRL or online, has ever done that. I know there's some fantasies sometimes where people oh, if they're cheating on significant other, they get a nude, as a basically be like, screw you, I'm with Brad now, Jared, something like that. But I've never seen it actually be done at all. What's the point of sending you a nude as a revenge of some kind? Oh yeah, they sent me a nude. Of course they did, OP. Of course they did. Regarding having Jane in the comment section, I did skim some stuff and I think I might have found some things, but you know what? I'm stopping myself right here. Basically, I'm stopping myself right here in this story. If it had happened the way the OP described it, I'm sorry that you had to deal with so much and that your D&D experience got ruined. Hope you can find a better game out there, but honestly, you should have left a long time ago, and from the very first post, should have just dipped out and dropped out and didn't join in whatsoever. If you don't want this kind of thing in your games, just ignore it, avoid it, and find something that's gonna be better suited for you. But at the end of the day, I'm still gonna stick by with, listen, this story is just so unbelievable. I can't imagine it actually happening. Maybe it did happen, maybe not specifically how OP described it, but I mean, if it did happen, I'm sorry that it happened to you, and I hope you can find a better game where you don't have to deal with this kind of thing in the first place in the future, and I hope you can find a proper game of D&D instead of turning D&D to dungeons. And do you want to see my tatas? Let's not ask about what I think of this story. What do you, comment section, think about this? It might be too harsh in this video to immediately outright say that the story is fake, because this just doesn't seem that believable to me. Or maybe I'm onto something. Maybe there was a slight misrepresentation of what actually happened, and the story is maybe an embellishment of what happened. I mean, most stories really are, right? Whenever somebody writes from their own experience, they tend to usually put some sort of a personal bias to make other people see their side instead of somebody else's. So maybe there's some of that going on, but maybe I'm being too harsh. Let me know down in the comments below, and I guess we'll just end the video here. Hi, this is Desktop Morrow, because my legs hurt, dude. I've been recording for 5 hours already. My feet hurt and I did jogging twice throughout the day, so I deserve a little bit of a sit down. But ever since I did the story about the girl exposing herself at the table, I've been wanting to desperately look into it and see if it's actually real, because to be honest, I do reflect some of my comments that I said about being completely fake could be potentially untrue, and I did get a little bit volatile with the video, I completely admit. So I want to take it back. I feel like it's actually real. However, there are some truths that have been obfuscated from this in general. In specific post, the OP mentioned the fact that they apparently have this person, Jane, over in the comment section. Turns out it's actually Jess, not Jane, that responded and been responding to the comments and has explained her side of the story. So I feel like it's only fair that we go through what Jane said in her side of the story or what happened. Turns out the name that I gave is very close. It's not Jane, it's Jess. I don't make this kind of investigation videos, nor do I really want to, but I just really wanted to see what the hell is going on. So we gotta read this together. Screw it. I'll open myself up to criticism. Jess here, or Jay, with a message from the rest of the table. OP is not telling the full truth at all. OP has neglected to mention the fact that, from the off, he has been weird with me and clearly did not want a girl at the table. He's the only one I struggled to make friends with and got a weird vibe from. Secondly, the discomfort you claim you raised had nothing to do with your feeling victimized by me showing my bra. You complained about me giving advantage on rolls for doing so. A complaint which, as you know, was taken and resolved by the DM, and you didn't complain further at any point. That was literally your only concern. I will say this, giving somebody advantage because they showed you a little bit of cleavage is wild. But apparently, I guess it was resolved. Listen, it's this person's words versus OP's words. And I'm not on either side, really. I just thought this story was absolutely bewildering. But I guess it's true, so I gotta take a bunch of my comments back, but we'll see how this transpires. Anyway, it's still not okay to give somebody advantage for showing a little bit of boobage or anything. I'm not gonna start showing my balls to Mary to get advantage. That's ridiculous. But apparently, according to Jess here, it was resolved, so we'll move on. Sexual tension has been building up amongst the group for months, and OP had so long to speak out if he was uncomfortable, and he didn't at all. When I was teasing the boys, he was smiling and enjoying himself, and when I made the decision to have a little fun and show the boys my tits, did OP look away and discuss like he makes it seem like he did? No, he was just as into it as the rest of them. In fact, he openly commented on them and only got on all high and mighty on Reddit afterwards. I'm not gonna pull like a, aha, gotcha, OP, you be caught red-handed with wiener in your hand or something like that. But at the end of the day, maybe your situation was indeed uncomfortable and maybe it was kind of, you ever just smile because it's really awkward? I do that. I do that very often. And it's usually a thing that I try to control myself, but I do find myself sometimes like laughing along if something is really awkward, like you're doing like fake laugh, like, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. You know, in most situations, I don't want to make the situation feel weird. So it's just easier for me to passively go along with the situation. But when I do catch myself, it is one of the situations where I need to kind of realize that, wait a minute, I'm only just going along because I don't want to rock the boat. I should probably put myself out of the situation. And there've been so many awkward situations of VR chat where I'm just kind of laughing along, giggling along without actually meaning it. It's more of a social contract thing than me actually finding something funny. I'm just trying to fit in this awkward world. Commenting on the cleavage, however, is, I mean, I guess the situation is awkward. But if you felt awkward immediately in the very beginning, I feel like OP really should have considered about talking to Jess, and maybe even DM and say, hey, maybe we tone down some of the sexual tension just a little bit. It's getting a little bit out of whack. Let's get back to D&D, kind of reorientate the game back to it. Because I don't believe we've had a full confirmation whether OP has actually done that or not. At least not from the two stories that I'm seeing. I could have missed it out, and that could be my fault. If OP did talk about it, but it was ignored, then that's unfortunate and really sucks for OP. If OP never did talk to the DM and the party and this Jess person to maybe tone down some of the sexual tension, kind of the onus goes on OP at that situation. I don't have full confirmation. I'm a little bit loopy from recording for 5 hours, so there's a lot of sections of the story that I missed out, but let's continue. One of the boys found his first Reddit post and we discussed it. Yes, we were very angry that he acted like he was visibly uncomfortable. We figured he would raise something personally to us, and he didn't. Instead, he came back and we thought that it was because he still wanted a show. We thought he had farmed his fake outrage on Reddit karma, but still wanted me. Why do we think this? Because before this session, I made my intentions to do something fun very clear, and he did nothing to voice his concerns. Blatantly performing for the internet, but then wants to have his cake and eat it too because he's attracted to me. That could be a possibility, but only OP and nobody at the table would actually know this. I wouldn't know this. This claim could hold water, it could not hold water. This could be a possibility that OP was just karma farming on Reddit. I don't understand why people want to do it as well. I guess numbers go up, makes brain feel happy chemicals, but maybe that could be a possibility. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't want to think ill of OP, nor do I want to take Jess's side, but there always could be a possibility. I'm like a middleman trying to figure out this confusing weave, dude. I am so lost in the sauce between like RPG horror stories being real or fake. It is actually driving me insane. Also, I'm exhausted, so when I stripped naked, OP says he started leaving straight away. He very much did not. He hung around and couldn't keep his eyes off me. I watched the man literally bite his lip, and it's only once I started being affectionate with another player, he got jealous and left. Everyone here needs a serious dose of reality if you think this is assault. OP can say all this retroactively, but in the room he has consistently enjoyed my body as much as the other and hasn't made his apparent lack of consent known in any way. According to some stuff I read online, apparently there is such thing as like sexual harassment. This could count as sexual harassment of the girl exposing herself or exposing her body. But if that was the case, I feel like OP would have left early on. And if they did, like assuming the OP didn't, and maybe then something had to tick him off for them to leave and then write the RPG horror story post, maybe that could have been a possibility. Maybe they were into it, but maybe they did. Like maybe they were into it, but they got jealous or something. I'm not fully sure. Listen, it's their words against somebody else. From what I looked up online, apparently it is like in UK, it is considered sexual harassment just to expose yourself like unwarranted. If this was indeed unwarranted and OP didn't want this, yes, I could see this count as sexual harassment. And if there's any kind of legal precedence for it, I feel like they should probably file charges or something if anything can be done. If nothing can be done, then probably best to stay away from this group. However, if OP did indeed consent to having this female player expose herself to the whole table and actually was into it until something set him off, so he just kind of stormed off and wrote the RPG horror story, then I mean that would be a whole other story. Which story is true? I don't know. I have no idea. People who want to call me a slut or a whore for this, I really don't give a crap. I'm for the first time in my life embracing a side of me that's been hidden. I had no reason to think anyone in the room didn't consent. If a man managed to pull a whole group of girls, he'd be a legend, but if I do it, I'm some sort of a predator. This has been one of the most freeing and powerful experiences of my life so far, and OP has ruined it by going into the internet and painting it in a false light. There's nothing wrong with being a little bit promiscuous, lewd, or whatever. If you want to show your body, flaunt your stuff. However, time and place and context in a D&D game where people specifically get together to play D&D, I don't know if that's going to be the right place unless the game specifically is supposed to be some sexy kink game. But hijacking it and turning it into a sexy kink game by being like, hey, cleavage, but let me lift up my skirt and stuff, probably not the best way to do it. Listen, be free to show yourself off as much as you want. The platforms for this sort of thing, hell, Twitter, I see a lot of people just posting nudes here and there. We'll do whatever makes you feel happy, but time and place, probably if people are getting together to play at a TTRPG table that isn't specifically related towards sexual themes, they'll probably want to play TTRPG that's probably not around sexual themes. They'll probably just want to throw funny math rocks. Either way, let's continue. OP is 100% sexist. I've gotten the vibe since the start, and you can see the sexist mask start to slip when he makes irrelevant comments about my body at the end of this post. Get off your high horse and admit we got an issue with women. Also, there was no orgy. I'm not, despite your opinions, a prostitute. We continue to play D&D, which you were so convinced we didn't enjoy, and afterwards I give the boys permission to take pictures because you know what? I felt sexy. Why the hell shouldn't I? I know one of the boys sent OP one of the photos last night that shouldn't have been done, and we've told him off. I know everyone is gonna side with OP because you all seem overly sensitive, but these are the facts. Those of you saying you should go to the police are mad. Nothing whatsoever that happened is going to hold up in court. The vile comments you've leveled at me and my body might though. Okay, let's not start pressing legal. Come on, this is the internet. This is Reddit, for crying out loud. Can you really get in trouble for Reddit? From things I heard about UK, you might be able to get in trouble for Reddit. Maybe? I don't know, honestly. I don't know how things in UK work. I'm gonna have to ask Mary to see. But overall, I feel like there definitely was something wrong here. The one thing that shouldn't have happened, I believe, is when things started getting sexual attention-y, that I feel like should have been diffused. Or a conversation about what kind of game are we running? Are we going with a more sexy game? Or are we just, pivoting back to playing regular D&D and then sex it down for afterwards or whatever? It feels odd to me that you're going in to play TTRPG and suddenly evolves or devolves, however we like to see it, into, hey, here's my cleavage. Oh, let me lift up my shirt. Let me take off my bra and show my tatas. Let me drop my skirt and show my hoo-ha. Why is this happening at a table that is not even like, you're not even playing, like, you're not playing kinks and cantrips over here. You're just playing like what, regular ass D&D? It's just weird. For me personally, I feel like it's time and place. A VR chat ERP club, sure, do whatever. On the internet because you feel like posting a nude pig just to get a bunch of likes and retweets, sure, do whatever. In a kinks and cantrips game, sure, do whatever. The themes match. But in a regular ass D&D game with something like, hey, here's a little bit of cleavage, let's turn up the heat a little bit, and everybody just kind of rolls with it. It just feels strange. I mean, sure, adults can do whatever the hell they want to do as long as everybody's of age and consents to it, fine. It's questionable if OP actually consented to it because their post says they didn't, but what Jess is saying here seems like they did until something set them off. Could that be a possibility? Sure, that could be definitely a possibility. Maybe they were into it and then saw her flirting with somebody else and were like, oh, I feel jealous now. I'm gonna make a post and farm karma or something. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm on neither of this side. I'm bewildered by the whole thing ever. The only thing I'll say is don't bring sexy stuff or fetishes or your kinks into regular ass D&D games. I guess that's my biggest moral of the story. Don't make
make regular D&D games extra sexy and bring you kinks and fetishes. If you want to be ogled by a bunch of dudes and just be naked for them, sure. But I think you should probably do it not at a TTRPG table where people are playing regular ass D&D. Join Kinks and Cantrips or another sexy specific game, or go do it in other places somewhere. It just feels bizarre to me. Yes, can you make D&D sexy? Sure. Can you make other TTRPGs sexy? Sure. But I feel like you should go play those specific games, or have a specific game you join into where that is the theme, not completely hijack the session and turn it extra sexy. God, this video is gonna get demonetized. Anyway, I have no idea what to make sense of this story. I'm torn. I am split. Honestly, this is crazy. You know what it feels like? I'm not even reporting an RPG horror story. I'm just reporting drama alert story. That's what I'm doing. This is beef on the internet that went from beef IRL to beef on the internet, and I'm just reporting it. Why am I so hooked on this? This is way too it's way too juicy for my own good. My heart is gonna explode. At the end of the day, all I'll say is one very important message: not bring your kinks, fetishes, or anything otherwise into a regular ass D&D game. That's my only stance. That's my only stance on the whole thing. I'm not taking anyone's side here because all of this is just too wild for me.
And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.